Ladies and gentlemen, I open the council meeting of the 2nd of July at 7 o'clock. In the event of an emergency, the building may be evacuated. You will be required to vacate the building by the rear entrance and gather at the breezeway between the library and the art gallery buildings. This is council's designated emergency muster point. Under no circumstances is anyone permitted to re-enter the building until the all clear has been given and the area deemed safe by authorised personnel. In the event of an evacuation, a member of council staff will assist any member of public with a disability to vacate the buildings. All councillors and staff are required to speak into the microphone. You may need to move your microphone closer to you to ensure you are heard and recorded on the live streaming. Your microphone will glow red when it is picking you up. First of all, any apologies? No apologies. Live streaming and recording. This council meeting is being live streamed and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to be live streamed and recorded. Please ensure that if and when you speak at this council meeting that you ensure you're respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Orange City Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. A recording will be made for administrative purposes. I'd like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I'd also like to pay respect to the elders both past and present of the Wiradjuri Nation and extend that respect to other Aboriginal Australians who are present. Does any councillor wish to declare any conflicts of interest in any matter for consideration at the council meeting this evening? Yep. No late items, no Merrill minutes. And I think first of all we'll go into the good news folder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've got two items of good news this week. One is a letter from the Orange Harness Racing Club thanking Orange City Council for support and sponsorship of the Carnival of Cups at Towak Park on the 3rd and 10th of February. Carnival of Cups attracted horses from Menangle Park, Bob's Farm, Grenfell, Dubbo, Goulburn, Exeter and Hall. These two race meets also showcased Towak Park's grass track, the only one in New South Wales to race on. Secondly, a call was taken from Margaret Finley of Heath Place, who wanted to pass on her thanks and appreciation for the excellent job the street sweeper did on her street. She called council to help clean the street and she was very happy with the service she received.
Very much. Has that been passed on to the boys? Girls? Yeah. Council now adjourns for the conduct of the open forum, and we have one speaker tonight, and our speaker is Emma Zielinski of 12 Spencer Lane, Orange. That's Central West Mums event funding. Are you there?
Come to the speaker. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, well, that's good. Okay. Good evening. Thank you for having me to speak this evening, Mr Mayor and councillors, all in attendance. I am Amaret Zielinski, founder and administrator of a large community group called Central West Mums. And Mr Mayor, thank you very much for meeting with me earlier in the year to encourage me to apply for a grant or an inaugural event for the community. Central West Mums is a group that I started 3 years ago. It was born out of my own experience coming to Orange several years ago. I felt fairly isolated when I arrived. We came here for my husband's work to, of course, do good in the community, and I didn't have such a positive experience when I arrived. So I started this group, and 3 years on, it's heading towards 3,000 targeted and captive members, which clearly tells me that this group serves a purpose in this community. Because it's grown quite quickly over a relatively short space of time, I feel that it is necessary to hold a significant and powerful inaugural event, which I call Mumfest 2019. I'd like this event to have legs and run annually every year, because in the midst of many different issues that mums and women face here, like drought and financial pressures and social anxieties and geographical isolation and a whole host of other things as well that affect the community, like domestic violence. I see these on posts every day in the group, and there is no other group like it. So it makes sense to me to hold this networking event to bring mums together in the region and have them feel supported in and further strengthen, I guess, their community connection that they have with each other on the group, by empowering them and uplifting them and inspiring them with some powerful messages at the event. How I plan to do that is to bring a film director and author, a mum herself, an entrepreneur who has reached 100 million women globally. That is Taryn Bromfitt. Bringing her alone to this significant event, which of course her message won't just go to the event attendees, it will be streamed back to the entire group of mums in the region. So it's vitally important we have someone like her bringing a powerful message of embracing yourself and accepting and being happy with who you are. She alone, to bring her along is costing, over $7,000 to bring her to the event. In addition to that, I will have Di Gill from the Centre for Rural and Remote Regional Health coming to speak, and the centre will also bring a wellbeing activity, like activation at the event as well, for mums to be involved in. So the event itself is definitely ticking the boxes along with the community group of Live and Prosper. There are a lot of tree changes coming to the area, and I see those women request to join every day in the group, and they use this group as a go-to, as a place to connect and a place to pick up information and share knowledge and content and valuable support. It's positive, it's trusted, all within a very safe place that has no judgment. And again, there is nothing like it. There's nothing else that exists like that as a stepping stone to getting help when you need it. Mums are there looking out for each other, and we all know that 1 in 3 women suffer from anxiety in their lifetime, 1 in 6 suffer from depression, and we all know that the facts are that you have an increased risk of having depression and anxiety, particularly when you're a mum. So I feel that this is clearly insignificant for the community to hold this event as an annual thing moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Amaran.
Thanks.
Sorry for being late, councillors.
Word there for a while, Councillor Munro.
We'll move on to item 3.1, is the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Orange City Council held on the 25th of June. Who moved it?
I'll move it.
Councillor Whitten, seconded Councillor Nugent. All in favour? Thank you. Council meeting now adjourns for the conduct of the policy committees and Planning and Development Policy Committees. First, Councillor Turner.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and welcome everyone to the Planning and Development Committee meeting, the 2nd of July, commencing at 7:10. 1.1, declarations of pecuniary interest. I don't believe there are none. 2.1, items approved under the delegated authority of council. Councillor Duffy, seconded Councillor Prevatira. Any? Councillor Nugent.
Councillor Turner. Just a question on page 6, at the bottom of page 6, DA 1382018. Modification there talks about a seeks to delete condition number 14, which requires an on-site stormwater detention system. Just through you, Mr. Chair, just wondering what the alternative arrangements are in terms of the removal of that stormwater detention system. Some other way that stormwater is going to be handled.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to get clarification of which application that was. Which one was it again? Sorry, Councillor.
DA 138/2018, brackets 2 at the bottom of page 6. Number 27.
Councillor Turner, I'll refer that one to Jason Beekstone, our engineering manager down the back there.
Contributions already been.
Happy with that, Mr. Councillor Nugent?
Thank you.
Mr. Theakstone, any other comments? All those in favour, we've been reminded we need to have a show of hands. Unanimous. 2.2, amendment to the Development Control Plan in relation to flooding.
I'll move the recommendation.
The amendment been moved by Councillor Kidd and seconded by Councillor Munro. Any comments? Do the staff wish to comment, or it's all okay?
Only that it's going on.
Oh, okay.
Just to go on exhibition.
No, it is going on exhibition, and we'll come back for final discussion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Hands, please. Councillor Munro. Unanimous. That completes the Planning and Development Committee meeting. Call on...
Hope you're there, Councillor.
Pardon? Councillor Miletto. It all happened too quick. I didn't have time to have it.
Councillor Turner. Time being 7:14 p.m.
Text
I
message.
declare the meeting open with regards to the Employment and Economic Development Policy Committee meeting. Item number 1, declaration of peculiar interest. Non-peculiar interest unless it's significant. Non-peculiar interest. Are there any which anybody would like to declare? There being none, we'll move on to item 2.1.
I'll move the recommendation, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you, Mr. Mayor. I was waiting for you. Have a seconder. In favour? Show of hands, please. Item number 2.1, minutes of the Economic Development Community Committee meeting held on the 15th of May 2019. Thank you, Councillor Nugent. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it, Councillor.
Mr. Mayor, all those in favour?
Aye.
Any discussion? There being none, we'll move on to item 2.2. There being the minutes of the Economic Development Committee meeting held on the 12th of June 2019. The recommendations which appear in front of us. Recommendation number 1, the Council acknowledge the reports presented the Economic Development Committee as it's held on the 12th of June 2019. Excuse me. Number 2, the Council determined the recommendations from 3.1 and 3.2 from the minutes of the Economic Development Community Committee held on the 12th of June 2019, which has 3.1 matters arising. The council conduct a launch of products developed, the BenMap data, and invite members of the Economic Development Community Committee, Master Builders Association, Business HQ, Orange Chamber of Commerce, Central West Business Chamber, Put Orange First, and the broader medical industry. The launch will also include an update of the Future City project and public exhibition. 3.2, matter arising. That the committee acknowledge the contribution of Mr. Mark Burdak to the economic development of Orange. And number 3, that the remainder of the minutes of the Economic Development Community Committee held on the 12th of June 2019 be adopted.
I'll move those 3 recommendations if you wish, Mr Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Kidd and seconded by Councillor Munro. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go back to the knowledge retailers insight. No Orange retail insights there, and it gives us some figures just for Orange. And I think it'd be very good, which we could, if we went right across the board. And my next question is, why is it only for January, February, March? Is previous months going, or those future months? What's happening there?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we've only just recently signed on to this sort of. Over time, we'll get more.
System, yeah.
Because the only reason why I asked the question is because a lot of people tell us that people are going out of town, and I think we need to have the information here, which is very good information to let them know that what is actually going out of town and what is staying in town, and how we are comparing to the other 2 big regional centres in our area.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Is there any further questions from any of the councillor? Being no other, recommendation 2, it's been moved by Councillor Kidd, seconded by Councillor Munro. All those in favour?
Aye.
It's unanimous, carried. That concludes the Economic Development Committee at 7:18 p.m. I now call upon Councillor Romano to conduct the Infrastructure Policy Committee meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Miletto. I'd like to open the Infrastructure Policy Committee meeting of the 2nd of July 2019 at the time being 7:18. Does any councillor have a pecuniary interest, significant non-pecuniary interest, or less than significant non-pecuniary interest in any matter listed for consideration at this meeting? The answer would be no. Move on to Section 2, Item 2.1. The minutes of the City of Orange Traffic Committee meeting held on the 11th of July 2017. There's a recommendation on page 5. Do I have a mover?
Moved.
Councillor Hamming moved, seconded by Councillor Prevachira. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Section 3, from 3.1 on the current works. There's a recommendation on page 40.
Move those, Mr Chairman.
Moved by Councillor Kidd, seconded by Councillor Munro. Any discussion on this item?
If I may, just congratulate the staff and the work that they did in conjunction with the RMS Woodward Street. Taking that roundabout, it's working fabulous, and in particular I'd like to thank the staff because very, very busy part of the street and going up to the school. Traffic flowing all the time, and I don't think I saw a person complain, see anything on social media. Done an excellent job, and certainly it's going to improve the safety, traffic flow on that corner.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Mr Chairman, I've just say about water security as far as storage levels are concerned. Mr Chairman, these 2 old chestnuts that were raised during the last drought, and they're being raised by members of the again, and I think deserve at least an opportunity for us to give them a one, and I've raised them in this chamber over the years too, both of them. Chairman, the mines at Lucknow. Question comes to Councillor Kidd. Many years ago, back in the 1980s, you know, council at that stage pumped out Lucknow and pumped it straight into Summerhill Creek, the highway there. Now, over the years, there's been conjecture about the amount of arsenic in the water in the mines and so forth like that. Well, I tell you what, the Orange would have been nice. Given the severity of the current drought, to be honest, no real prospect of rain at the moment. Could we again look, if it's a no with a capital N, fine. But I know that we did, and I know when Mike Ryan was the but I really think that it's a matter of interest for the community. A lot of older heads in the community, why aren't we bringing the option? I don't know the answers. Nobody in this room would know the answers. So I think it's well worthwhile if we at least explore, because there would be underground there that could be used. So it's only an idea, but it's something. The other one is one I raised during the last drought. And that was, and again, it's a lot of people are asking me questions about it. And I know that logistically they said we couldn't do it last time, but dredging or taking out the silt in our dams. Now, any farmer knows during dry periods that's what you do. You push the silt out, you push it out. I asked this question during the last drought again, and we were given all sorts of answers why it can't happen. But the fact that, you know, we would be incredibly valuable topsoil, highly fertile, I would imagine, and could be used for many, many years by not only council but the community as a whole if we stored it somewhere. I think it's something else that we could. These things, pulling them out of order and saying, look, there's no way we can do it. I think instead of trying to find reasons why we can't do it, can we? Because it has got the community. We had water restrictions put back to the 30% mark last week. That's provoked a lot of discussion in the community about the current situation. People do know the seriousness of the situation, and I think all options, and I mean all options, should be explored. We're out in those mines, and we can at least improve our water storage capacity while the dams are down. Why wouldn't we do it?
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Just take that on notice.
There's a couple of reports.
Sorry, Councillor Duffy.
I just want to back up what Councillor Taylor said there about the water out at Lucknow. Back to Warren Bradley and Tony used to have the shop there below Stan's, and someone else had something to do with the mine out there, and they used to have to get the assistance of Over Energy at the time to know when they could turn the pump on, because it was draining that much power, and they were just pumping it straight in. And that was brought up at a water meeting we had at Nastar when a certain council tried to pinch some water from Lake Canobolas. And I think my friend here would know what we're talking about. But that, I think that's definitely worth pursuing, and that water was going into Suma Park for years and years and years, and whether it had what content of arsenic in it, I don't know. But my other question relates to is the water that we're getting from the Macquarie pipeline. It says 461 megalitres there, and I'm just wondering what that works out as a cost per megalitre for the 12 months, what it is as far as electricity goes, what it's actually worth. And we can take that one on notice. Maybe it's that one there. But my other question is on the airport. And we've all been, I'll go back to the actual water. I did notice it on the news the other day. It was gone to level 1. I think that was with their water. It just shows the importance of the piping network that's going around. Maybe we should be linked to Windermere as well. But the other one that I want to talk about is the airport. Now, we've all read the paper just recently about Rex and what the engineers are saying and all these type of things. do we have to have a backup, or what's the situation there with that as regards to if they're grounded or by, because there's accusations going towards CASA and all these type of things there. There might be something there. It could be a storm in a teacup. I don't know. And I just want to know what the answer is if something goes wrong.
Can we go back to the water that Councillor Taylor brought up at Lucknow? Can we take that on notice and investigate that item?
I think it's an excellent idea to at least investigate it and rule it in or out. We do have some quite modern treatment facilities there as well that will take out most impurities that are in the water system at the moment anyway, and I'm not aware of any trace arsenic within Suma Park Dam itself. So if it has been pumped in there in the past, there's certainly no trace element of it now. So it hasn't done any damage in the past, long-term damage in the past. So I'm happy to look that up, and certainly happy to also look into the desilting. There is still at 30% or at 35%. We're still quite a body of water available there. So certainly some upper reaches of the dam could be looked at for desiltation. Yeah, absolutely. And particularly if there's a commercial effort there where we may be able to sort of partner with one of the commercial ANL or someone like that are producing topsoil at the moment. So if we can work that through, I'm happy to investigate that. Certainly we'll take up and let council know what the cost of pumping.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question too. I neglected to ask it. There was massive pumps there at one of the mines for many years. Are they still there, or are they been decommissioned, taken away?
I have to take that on notice as well.
The one.
The second question is, I'll come back to you, Councillor Miletto. I just want to clear this up. The second question was to do with Rex Airlines by Councillor Duffy. What do we have to do with?
We can certainly talk to Rex management. I have heard their response within the media in regards to the claims, but and I'm sure there's alternatives available that could be put in place if there was anything to occur. But I'm not aware of any impositions that CASA plan to take at this point in time.
Be a little bit more sure about there are alternatives available.
Discuss it with the management of Rex. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
That clears that up. Councillor Miletto, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Acting General Manager, with regards to the water referred to by Councillor Taylor, which is the mines out there at Lucknow, I'm just wondering, does Orange City Council sell any of that water to Cadia Mine? If not, why not?
The Lucknow mine water? No, we don't. We never have. Very good point. Maybe it's water more suitable to a mine. That is part of the report.
Mate, if I can just make a comment. Look, there is a report being done on the water out there. It's quite comprehensive. One of the things with the water out there is the fact that in certain types of rock formations and so forth, it's saturated with water for a while, the rock starts to break down. And if you pump the water out inwards, one of the concerns at the time I've read the report at length, and getting the continuity of supply out of mines, you'd have to go through EPA and a whole host of things. But it's in a report. Get that report. And the other one with the desilting, get a report on it, because one thing you've got to watch with some dams, like on a farm dam, it's not deep. Desilting, you get, not only do you get dead water, you can get dead soil. And it's silt. Really has to be mixed. So, but ANL, who knows? ANL might be just.
Any further discussion on current works? Councillor
Just
Whitton.
a question I noticed, Mr. Chairman. Had a number of people, and I know this has land, but we may need the right to where you drive into Kmart there, where you come back out with the trolleys, there's a gas thing there. As you come down off there, there's a bit of a steep dip. Suppose anybody going out to their cars, they can't get their trolleys down there. Go down there, there's a number of people who
We'll talk to the
Thank you very
property
much.
owner. Yeah.
Sorry, Mr Chair, can I just say one other thing too? With Mr Graham today, it should be known to the public, just with that 10 mils we had the other night, that was more than sufficient to take us over the trigger point, and we extracted water via stormwater harvesting. I would suggest in the near future, the state government, the Deputy Premier Department has got a special thing available for water infrastructure. Perhaps it may be a time to extend our stormwater harvesting. Just so it was 10 mil one we had.
Yeah.
10 mil, and how much did we get?
I'd have to take it on notice on how much was actually
Yeah,
harvested,
sorry.
of course.
But
But
it
we were
should-
able to turn on and pump for a couple of days. Also looking forward to being able to do the same thing after this Sunday's rainfall that's predicted.
Okay. Very good. If no more discussion, I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Concludes the Infrastructure Policy Committee meeting. The time being 7:35. And as there's no Sport and Recreation Policy Committee, I call on Councillor Privatera to conduct the Environmental Sustainability Policy Committee meeting.
I'd like to open the Environmental Sustainability Policy Committee meeting on the 2nd of July. I'm being 7:33. Does anybody have a pecuniary industry, significant non-pecuniary industry, or less than significant pecuniary industry? Any matter listed for consideration at the meeting? No. Item 2.1 is off the Park and Trees and Water Committee on the 22nd of May.
Recommendations.
Discussion, I'll move the...
Chairman, I think we should have a bit of discussion here about the
Councillor Miletto.
Oh, Councillor Blair.
Thank you, Councillor. Just with regards to the Community Committee Action Plan, page 17. The first item which appears on there is develop concept plans for the main entrances to Orange, with the initial focus being on the eastern entrance. Just wondering whether that concept precinct plan provided for discussion at the Trees, Parks and Waterways Committee meeting held on the 20th of September 2018. Somebody able to give an update where we're up to with regards to that, and also does this concept include Lucknow around the Beasley Road precinct?
Through you, Mr Chair, in the committee papers on page 12 of the report, you'll see that the committee resolved to develop concepts and costing the main entrance to town on the eastern entrance, Bathurst Road there, in that triangle, just where the NDR meets Bathurst Road. That's been an area that's been there for some time, so that was a main concept. And it referred to, the examples on page 20 of the report, to develop concepts and costings style. And further recommendation of that committee was to develop concepts and costings for secondary signs just reading out the recommendation with a hardwood element and a scale similar to that on the bottom of page 21 for consideration by council, and that's for Molong Road, Cargo Road, Escort Way and airport entrances. So the other 5 secondary ones, it doesn't include Lucknow or Spring Hill or Clifton Grove. So that's what the committee resolved, developed the concepts and costings sort of in those styles. They're the costs that were incurred for that style of signage. Obviously now branding and would come back to council for consideration and discussion.
Thank you. With regards to the meeting, are you able to indicate where the committee suggests the entrance to Orange starts then? Well, we talk about beautification of Orange, and the concept which has been proposed is around the Northern Distributor, Mitchell Highway. I would think that the entrance to Orange probably starts around the other side of Lucknow, around Beasley. Seems that's in our catchment, it's our area. Was there any discussion with regards to beautifying that area, putting some trees or something around there so people get a different impression as they come into Lucknow, then continue through at Orange?
So we'd previously discussed the location of entrances and Lucknow, so to the eastern end of Beasley Road, on both sides of the road there's some tree plantings.
Yep.
You will have seen some recent works with the fence going up in front of a reform mine.
Wonderful.
That'll extend right down to the Cherry container. So we'll finish tidying up the reform mine, and then once we've done that, we'll turn the lights on that have been installed on that. So there are some beautification works, and no, Councillor, as you're chair of that committee, we talk a lot about other activities that are like to see happen around Lucknow, and they have their $25,000 allocation this year. So
you are correct, but my question was with regards to what occurred in another meeting, not what happened in Lucknow.
We didn't discuss it any further than the trees at the entrances end of Lucknow as you come into Lucknow, so on the eastern side of Beasley Road there.
Thank you.
And just make a comment on that. Quite a few years ago, when we were talking about entrances and so forth, made quite clear by the Lucknow community group that they were Lucknow, even though they were in Orange, and as you come into Lucknow, they want to be known as Lucknow, or have signage and so forth that says, welcome to Orange. And in this case, so we looked at just the main entrances looking to Orange, because I moved, it was my motion actually. This committee, chamber, that we look at here and put it into the budgeting process, look at Orange. Didn't include Lucknow because Lucknow was actually done years back to what they wanted.
We remember when they changed it to 2800,
Mr. Chair.
when they changed Spring Hill and Lucknow.
Councillor.
Yeah.
While we're talking about the entrances, there was a resolution of this council that a stop and rest be built on the inn as you come into Orange on the left, where the old dairy to be. There's where the cow cutouts are. We have an answer on where we're at with that. Has it been designed? The last I heard, there was a design. There was costing, but do we know where we're at with it?
My memory fails me, Mr. Chair. Can we take it on notice and come back to you? Don't mind. My memory fails me unless anyone else.
Only that there's some broad concept plans for that development, and we are looking at funding opportunities through RMS.
Let us come back to you if you wouldn't mind. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, just my comments about 3.2.2 or two. I think that's been very restrictive, just leaving it to 2 types of entrances. Most of those types of entrances, you see that right across the top end at Alice Springs, in Western Australia, those similar type entrances, and they are in the south as well. I do like the Lake Angelico one because it tells you something. It talks to you. It tells you they can go fishing on the lake. It tells you other things that happen in the area. And we've got plenty of things in here that we can tell and display in an entrance. So I think it should be left a little bit more open, that maybe involve the community a bit in what the situation is there. But I think it should display what we're actually about. And I know Councillor Kidd just mentioned the fact that Lucknow like to be known as Lucknow, but the fact is we're gold. we're a farming community, we're orchardists, horticulture, all these type of things here. So I think we should try and portray that. But if you go along those two that are there, they're very restrictive in what you do. Whereas you go somewhere along the lines of Lake Angelico, it's talks to you. It tells you when you're coming into town what it is. The same as what it is when you go into Cobar. Cobar tells you what goes on in that town when you drive in and you look what's there. So I think it's just a little bit restrictive just to go on those two. Leave it open.
I think
Mover and second are happy to do that.
no, I think it's been passed.
It hasn't. I haven't seen you move a motion yet, Mr Chairman. And I haven't seen you raise your hand.
Look, on that, Councillor Duffy's quite welcome to come to the Park Street Trees and Waterways Committee, which meet regularly and the dates are sent out. And all councillors are quite welcome. This is a discussion that we've been having for several years. That involves a number of people from the community, including others, and if have a look. It was wide and far for various designs. One thing I will tell you, never get everyone agreeing upon what it should look like. I think the options there are pretty good, and they're a lot better than what we have now, which in most cases is zero. And gone through the budgeting process. Budgeting items, and it's there, approved, and recommendation back from the advisory committee. I'd like to come meeting and have a discussion with them. You're quite welcome.
Just so it doesn't cost any more money than what we budgeted for, that's all.
Thanks, Mr Chair. Just really to echo the Mayor's comments, has been through an extensive consultation process. This is what the committee's come up with. Excuse my voice. The other thing about it is that we're talking about that triangular area in the Northern Distributor. So there's not going to be anywhere to pull up and listen to what...
I thought he meant it goes on the radio when you go past it, it talks to you.
Sorry? Well, that might be able to be done, and there's, narrow casting for
With a game in your
tourism radio. But, just making that note that that's the nature of that location.
Right, no more discussion. We'll have
An amendment that Councillor Duffy's doing, or are we going by this?
I move the recommendation.
we have a mover and a seconder, so we'll put it to a vote.
End of discussion without a motion.
No, there was a mover and a seconder.
There was a mover and seconder. Yeah. Item 2.2.
Move the minutes, move the recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Nugent.
Second that, Mr Chairman.
Moved by Councillor Whitten. Recommendation on page 25. Council acknowledges the report presented by the Companion Animals Community at its meeting on the 3rd of June. Resolve recommendations 3.1 and 3.2 from the minutes. Item 3.1, that the Council initiate discussion with Cabond in regard to of animals being held in Orange that appear to come from Cabond Shire. Council has escalated the cost of handling of these animals. Provides the new rules legislation in regards to the selling of companion animals after the 1st of July through the Council website, Facebook page and media.
Over page 2.
Oh, sorry, there is.
Half a page to read yet.
Read them all, we've got the recommendation.
We've got the recommendation in front of you anyway, yeah. Questions on them?
Yeah,
Councillor McRae?
I just wanted to ask a question whether there's any more information about the Cabon Council and the animals lost. Where is it happening? What can we also do in terms of promotion, apart from, obviously this is a council to council discussion, but what's going on in that situation?
Through you, Mr Chair. Happening across the board. There's dogs coming in from Kewdale and places like that. Even had, so it's quite widespread. It's because we're offering quite a good service with Canobolas Family Pet Hospital, and I think it makes it quite easy. The intent of the committee there was just that we contact Cabon and talk them through those issues, because it's costing us a substantial amount of money.
So are you suggesting that there's a lost dog wandering around Kewdale and someone's actually picking it up in Kewdale and bringing it into Orange as a lost animal?
Dogs and cats, and the orchid bit that puts us in is then we really struggle to find, nobody would expect to ring a neighbouring council. So that's a major issue for us, that a family pet may well go missing and they wouldn't be thinking to ring us to see whether it's here.
A microchip from Cabon.
A lot of the animals are unidentified.
Yeah, is there a requirement for farm pets to be microchipped under old legislation?
They have to be chipped and registered, but they don't have to be, it doesn't cost anything. Unless they go into a pound, then.
No, they don't. No one does it.
It's the legislation.
So, sorry, it sounds like we want to discourage people on their way into work from Cudal Cargo, picking up the lost dog and bringing it into Orange. We don't want them to do that anymore.
That's right. And the issue is not working dogs, it's just stray dogs or cats in those towns.
Either that or we'd like to be paid for it.
Kevin, matter arising on hearing about dogs and cats, there was an issue that was raised here many months ago about feral cats living in the drains. I know there's a problem up on Sterling Avenue where there's neighbours have come to me about feral cats going in and eating their domestic cats' food and fighting and growling all night. Is there anything that council officers can do about having a look at that and monitor? These cats are feral. I've seen them myself. I've actually spotted them, and they do run down the drains. I'm just wondering whether they've come from Cabon. If we can catch one, we can see where they come from. But there is seriously is an issue up there with
Got an accent.
an accent.
They gave us a councillor. Sorry, councillor.
Might be duff.
No, but anyway, yeah, I'd like to, if staff could look at that, because it is a bit of a problem. It's becoming more and more too. Yes.
Mr. Chair, in the past we've done some attempts at trapping up in that area and they've been unsuccessful. We can certainly look into it again.
Yeah, they are a problem. They're actually, one of them's coming into I know the colour of it too. It's white and it comes into my garage nearly every night. And it's
Let the dogs off.
let my dog go, you think? Let my dog loose. No, anyway, I just thought I'd mention that because it isn't just my place. As a councillor, I probably got to declare an interest in that one. But I do think there is a serious problem up there with feral cats living in drains.
Use the Harry Butler method.
Show of hands, please. I can't hear.
Show of hands.
Show of hands.
We're moving it, aren't we? Sorry.
Item 2.3, minutes of the Environmental Sustainability
I'll
Committee.
move them for you, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Sukij, second by. Recommendations are on page 43, 44. On the discussion on the items. Councillor Nugent.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, look, just to note that Plastic Free July started yesterday. The Environmental Sustainability Committee has a working group which is and encouraging people to participate. I'd that invitation and challenge to all councillors to get involved and join up and be part of Plastic Free July this year. Thank you.
I encourage the wider community to become a part of it. It's when you do it the first time, how much plastic you can reduce. No more discussion. I'll put it to the vote. Eva? In the Environmental Sustainability Policy Committee, time being 7:49. Finance Policy Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Privatera. I'd like to open the Finance Policy Committee meeting of 2nd of July 2019 with the time being 7:50 p.m. Does any councillor have a pecuniary interest, significant non-pecuniary interest or less than significant non-pecuniary interest in any matter listed for consideration at this meeting? There being none, I'll ask you to go to the request for financial assistance, item 2.1, starting with the general donations for quarter 1 of 2019-20. And we have a very long list, 23 recommendations on page 6 and 7.
Moved.
Seconded.
Councillor Hamling. Oh, I'm going to have to go again. Could I have a seconder? I didn't hear who. Thank you, Councillor Munro. Now, we have a long list. I might ask that we do address them, those that are of concern, and we can separate them out as needed.
Yeah,
Councillor Duffy.
My question's regarding to when we had a debate on Showground, and I know Councillor Turner mentioned the fact that the money that we went to the stables was an annual event. Wondering why wasn't that in this list here?
That's a great question. I think when we consider that this is for the first quarter of 2019-20, the first quarter I think would be July, August, September, and I don't think the show will come around till May, so they've got a little bit more time, we've got a little bit more planning. Yeah. I think that would be the expectation.
It should be always there, and at the start of the year, it shouldn't have to come back.
They have to ask. They haven't asked yet.
So we've only tabled those which have been asked.
It was automatic. That's what Councillor Turner was referring to. Automatic list in the donations.
But look, there's still a requirement that you actually have to put in for it, because they may, for whatever reason, make a decision that they aren't having it, and we're just automatically putting the money out there. So even though it's automatic, they would get it, but you still have to put in the forms. The same as we all have this return in front of us tonight. Probably be zero for everyone. We still have to do it quarterly. Quarterly.
So the difference this year is that we're accepting applications and approving on a quarterly basis rather than trying to do 12 months up front. So I hope that assists you, Councillor Duffy, but I'm sure the Showground Committee will get on to the application as soon as possible. Are there any other matters of concern on those 23 recommendations? There being no further discussion, I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Of hands, please. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. We then have item 2.2, which is the request for financial assistance, quarter 1 of 2019-20, event sponsorship.
You've got to have a move in a second for you.
Yeah, I'm standing up to move the recommendation.
I'm actually happy to chair this part of the meeting, if that's okay. Thank you. Is there somebody who'd like to move it for discussion?
Instead of someone sitting down.
That's why
I'm going to move the recommendation, Madam Chair.
Duffy, do I have a seconder?
With the amendment to dot point 2, which is that the funding of $3,000 be made to major promotion events funding for the mums group. Heard the speaker here tonight for that. And I'd also encourage that group to go to Gabon Council and request some funding there, because, I mean, when we listen to what she talks about the issues there, it's a fantastic situation. It's right across the Central West. It affects mums and mothers, daughters, and those type of things with drought and all these other things. It uplifts the families and gets them going. We saw in here, this council here give $1 million to domestic violence. And here we are talking about some things here which could lead to suicide and those type of things there. And suicide's 10 a day, not 1 a week. It's 10 a day right throughout Australia. And if this helps that, I can't see any reason why. And in time of drought, I don't think our council has done probably enough of what we could do, especially when it comes to water for farmers and all those type of things there. So I'm going to ask that we support the $3,000 to the mums group.
Thank you. And the seconder, are you happy to support that amendment? Thank you.
Just for process.
Report that motion.
It's not an amendment.
The amendment of the $3,000 to. It was moved by Councillor Duffy.
Oh, you understand that. It's a motion, not an amendment. Yeah.
No, I just need to.
Acting General Manager.
It was.
Councillor Privatera. So we only have the amendment to item 2. Are there any other further discussions regarding those 11 items? There being no discussion, I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's Councillor Whitten, you did put your hand up, didn't you? Yes, thank you. That was unanimous. And I'll just clarify, under the new meeting procedures and code of conduct, whichever classification it is, we do need to make sure that if we make amendments or promise money from somewhere, councillors are required to say where it's coming from. My assumption, Councillor Duffy, is that that's just from the same pool of funds from the events donations.
That's correct.
Thank you.
We have a very good accounting firm here.
Thank you, councillors. That concludes the Finance Policy Committee meeting, with the time being 7:55. Call on Councillor Nugent to conduct the Services Policy Committee meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Macrae, and thanks, councillors. So I'd like to open the Services Policy Committee meeting of the 2nd of July at 7:56 p.m. First item on the agenda is item 1.1, declaration of pecuniary interest, significant non-pecuniary interests and less than significant non-pecuniary interests. Does anyone wish to declare an interest in any item on the agenda tonight? If not, we'll move on to item 2.1.
Move the recommendation.
Which is before the minutes of the Community Safety and Crime Prevention Committee of the 27th of May, moved by Councillor Kidd, seconded by Councillor Munro. Any comments, discussions or questions? Yes, Councillor Miletto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just with regards to item 3.1, the Central West Police District report, myself and a couple of other councillors happened to be there at that meeting, and Inspector Atkins actually spoke there, and I would just like to congratulate the local police for their continued hard work and dedication to addressing crime issues within Orange. As pointed out in that report, it's been a busy period for the police, with 750 charges in the first 5 months of this year. As a result of that, there were 415 bail checks that have been conducted, with over 542 person searches in 2019. But it's also good to see that the police are on the ground and up there in Glenroy and doing some door knocks and speaking to some of the residents up there and creating confidence within the community, knowing that the police are there and making themselves visible and known. So I do congratulate the police there. And I'm aware that there were 90 homes which received door knocks by the local constabulary. The Chief Inspector also reported on the stolen vehicles and indicated how they had been reduced from January to May, and also vehicles which had been burnt out, which has been a concern for a number of councillors here and also the community in general. Most of the crime has been down, which is really good to see. Note that the non-domestic violence related assaults are down in May, from January to May, but don't report on domestic violence against women, which I'd like some more information on. See how we're tracking there. I know that Orange does have a fairly high rate in comparison to the rest of the state. So next time we speak to Chief Inspector, there's certainly something which I'd like some feedback on, is where we're sitting at that point of time. But again, I congratulate the police for all their hard work and dedication which they're putting in at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Miletto. And I note that you were the acting chairperson of that meeting. I presume you would have passed on your congratulations at the meeting. So, and we're just noting those comments here in the public chamber.
That's correct.
Thank you, Councillor Miletto.
Thank you,
Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Duffy.
We met with the police here in the room, and one of the things discussed here, and I don't know what Councillor Miletto, you might be able to help me here, as regards to the name of the organisation, the police sector that Bathurst to have and Dubbo have one, and we need one of those groups here.
Regional Enforcement Squad.
I don't know what it is.
Regional Enforcement Squad.
I can't see why we can't be writing to the state government and back our police here and say, hey, we want one of those units here. I think it's something we should be doing, and I'd be happy if the Mover and seconder would add that to that to be right to the state government, and even the mayor meet with the minister. Who
I might be able to help shortcut this a little bit.
Yes, thanks.
After that
Councillor
meeting,
Hughes.
I've written a letter off to the police commissioner and the minister to ask for a meeting to discuss police numbers, regional enforcement, a dog squad, all things, and so
A bus. A bus, you asked for.
and a bus, yes, sorry, and a bus for that youth group. Obviously, I don't know why at the moment, because they're on their 6-week break. We haven't got. If you we'll chase it up, but we're definitely on that.
Good news. Thanks, Councillor Kitso. The letter's already written and we're just awaiting a reply. Thank you, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, look, I concur with what Councillor Miletto said there earlier, but I think we also need to acknowledge that the community at the moment have a lot of fears and there's a lot of crime happening in the area. I know the police always do their best. I chaired that committee for 17 years. And I know that all the police that we've had here over the years have certainly put big efforts in. But there is a lot of fear in the community. I know a lot of people have approached me. They've been broken into several times. And whether it's to do with people who are moving in and out of town, I don't know. But I think, yes, support the police 100%, but do not public an impression that we think all is good at the moment, because there is a lot of crime happening out there and there are a lot of people who are fearful and constantly asking what council, along with the police, are doing about the situation. So I think we need to keep that even keel. Support our police by all means. I know they've got limited resources. I support the mayor trying to get them more resources. What Councillor Duffy says about the enforcement squad. But Orange at the moment has and is developing quite a reputation. A lot of people have commented on that. Whether it's perception or fact, still as a council need to acknowledge the problem there.
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. Comments noted. Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. I commend the police too, because they did hold a public meeting in the council's workroom where a few people came along, and everything that the people asked were the police doing, they were doing. So just another question. Did I read somewhere where we're getting 6 new officers in the new intake somewhere today?
7.
So, okay. Well, that's a start anyway. So, as the Mayor said, we've written to go down and talk to the Minister and maybe the Deputy Premier and the Premier, just to see how much pressure we can put on. We're acknowledging that there is a bit of a problem, and we're trying as a council with the police to sort it out as much as we can.
Thanks, Councillor Hamley. If there's no other comments or questions or discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands to indicate support. Against? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 2.2 is the minutes of the Ageing and Access Community Committee of 29th of May, moved by Councillor Duffy, seconded by Councillor Miletto. Thank you.
Chairman, could I just raise an issue? Been brought to my attention, and it's an old, as I get quote again, an old chestnut. Again, I'm nauseum, but I was part of this committee for a lot of years too. There was always a problem with outdoor dining in the city, as far as people who have vision impairment and so forth, or people with mobility problems. And I don't blame the businesses, they're there to make money, but there are rules and regulations that need to be adhered to, so it doesn't prohibit people from being able to move around without being impaired by chairs and tables. So could we just be mindful of that and just maybe remind some of the businesses, particularly in the CBD, of their responsibilities to keep that walkway clear? And a couple of people have approached me. They've got disabilities and have some problems with particular businesses. If we can just remind those outdoor dining, it's not so much a problem this time of year, I'd imagine. Some coming on us problem. And what happens, that rules are there, they know the rules, but it creeps up on them and they start to forget about what their obligations are. And it's an old problem. It's been there for 20 years and I don't blame the businesses, but
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. I'll just check with the acting general manager whether you wanted to comment or the.
We have done blitzes before, Chair, and we'll do an education campaign. Let's call it that, not a blitz. Yeah. Know the rules, as you say, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. I'd just also, on that item, like to note the letter from Housing Plus, and on page 35, which was written to the Ageing and Access Committee, and some of the concerning statistics in there in terms of the Orange having 3 times the amount of people waiting for housing compared to Sydney, and the issue affecting disproportionately on women over the age of 55. And the last part of that paragraph, that there are only 2 properties available for rent privately that fall within the affordability criteria for a single person on the maximum age pension. So the need for affordable housing in Orange is obviously there, and applaud Housing Plus and other housing providers in their efforts to try and address that need. If there's no other comments, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, if you could raise your hands, please. Against? The motion is carried. Item 2.3, the minutes of the NAIDOC Week Community Committee of the 6th of June. Moved by Councillor Kidd, seconded by Councillor Duffy. Any comments or questions on that item? Having attended the last meeting of that committee, the plans for NAIDOC Week this week are progressing. And we've got the National NAIDOC Week starting next week, and I think with the flag raising ceremony on Monday. So any councillors who might be able to make it along, I think it's 10:30 on Monday for that. That would be great out front here at the Civic Centre. If there's no other comments or questions, I'll move the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? The motion is carried. And item 2.4, the minutes of the Lucknow Community Committee of 13th of June, moved by Councillor Prevotera, seconded by Councillor who wishes to speak to the subject, not to the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as the Director pointed out, I am the Chair of the Lucknow Committee. And I would just, Mr. Chair, I'd like to commend the council staff on the erection of that wooden fence that Mr. Maunder referred to earlier. Actually was out there and I had a look at that several days ago, and that looks absolutely fantastic the way it's coming along. And the reason I did that was because I was contacted by several residents who commented about some of the progressive things which were going on out there at Lucknow, and just to show their appreciation, not only from the work of the committee, which Councillor Prevotero also forms part of, but also the council staff in general. I just wanted to pass on their sincere thanks for the work which is being done out there. Just with regards to the lighting, I'm just wondering whether the Director can give any indication of when that may be fully operational.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we've tested the lights. They are operational. It was partly funded under a grant through the Office of Heritage Environment. That required us to invite the Minister to open or turn the lights on, if you will. Process of organising that event. So as soon as we can organise for a Minister or their representative to attend, we'll be turning the lights on.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Mileto, for those comments. And great work to you and Councillor Prevotera and all the committee on the work that's going on out there. If there's no other comments or questions, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Oh, sorry, raise your hands. Against? Motion is carried. Item 3.1, the alcohol-free zone proposal, the 1st of November 2019, 1st of October 2023.
The
recommendations there on page, the unnumbered page. The recommendations moved by Councillor Turner. Thank you, Councillor Turner. Seconded by Councillor Munro. Any comments or questions on that? I think
question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councillor Whitten.
Polices the alcohol-free zones. Is that a police officer's duty, or is that our council staff?
It's an excellent question. I'm going to...
How much money we got from it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's a police matter.
Thank you. Have we had any examples of fines?
Anyone been fined?
Not
No.
not by staff.
No, Chair, we don't.
We don't.
If it's in the same category
Matter,
as
so we
jaywalking.
don't have any examples. Yes, Councillor Whitten.
On from that, so the community should be make themselves aware of the actual areas of alcohol-free zones, and if they have any concerns or see anything, they should ring local police station. Okay.
Yes. And I mean, my understanding of this is continuation of current arrangements, and there is significant signage around the alcohol-free zone area indicating that that is the case. Was there any other questions or comments? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? The motion is carried. And that concludes the Services Policy Committee at 8:11. And I'll hand back to the Mayor to resume the ordinary meeting of Council.
Item 4 is the notice of motion, the reflection chair at Cook Park.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're moving it?
I'll second it.
Yes, I am moving it.
Seconder, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to speak to the motion itself. The motion itself is fairly explanatory. The motion says that Orange City Council support the placement of a reflection chair and a plaque in the immediate vicinity at Cook Park and also contribute to the cost of the same. Background relating to this motion, Mr. Mayor, is that the issue was raised in the media by a local resident by the name of Tracy Hinton, who was seeking at the time 50-cent donations to assist in the cause. As a result of reading that article in the local paper, I contacted Mrs. Hinton and asked, was there any way that I may be able to assist her? As a result of that, we came to this this motion. I understand, and thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Duffy also offered to assist if required. So I've put the motion before Council here tonight, but I just want to speak to the issue itself because it's one which is important to a lot of people in the community. Councillors, as the background information suggests, the placement of a reflection chair is to give people who have lost a loved one an opportunity to sit in a tranquil environment and reflect on the memories of the person who has been lost. During the discussions that I had with Mrs. Hinton, I asked her if she felt comfortable in coming to tonight's meeting and speaking with regards to the issue. She told me that she didn't feel that she had the strength to do so. I then asked her if she had any information which she'd like to provide me that would support the notice of motion. She provided a letter which I'm going to read out shortly. I've checked with her and she's asked me to do that. Although Tracy Hinton isn't able to speak to the motion tonight, she does present herself in the chamber tonight and she's the lady in the pink. So thank you for coming along, Tracy. I will now do my best to read the letter. I've lived in Orange all my life, minus a few years where I lived on the Central Coast. I moved back to Orange in 2007 to be closer to my family and friends. One thing I've noticed that I've always known is that the people of Orange have been such a strong community. In 2008, on the 2nd of March at 5 p.m, I lost my 38-year-old brother, Jamie Merchant, to suicide. The phone call rocked us and it affected our family, our friends, our work colleagues and stopped us all at that moment. Your whole life changes. The ripple effect comes from it torn some family members from us and made me as a wife, mother, auntie, daughter, and importantly as a sister, what is important in life. We lost a brother, a son, cousin, uncle, and a father of 2 young kids. Their lives were ripped apart. The past 11 years, this scenario is becoming too familiar in our community and its surroundings. Almost everyone I know has someone or heard of someone who's taken their own life. Mental health in this country is increasing by the second. Statistics would suggest that in 5 minutes, a letter, 8 people found in the world have died by suicide, 1 person every 40 seconds. In the past, I've raised funds for suicide prevention in Australia with a cupcake drive and a prevention walk in Orange Botanical Gardens. And I did catch up with Tracy yesterday up at Cook Park, and she tells me that Councillors Duffy and Hamling were also part of that walk to raise awareness. He goes on to say that it created awareness and brought people out who have been affected by it and had no other way of showing support. It showed people in our community that there is help. People have a connection regarding reflection on memories of loved ones. The money, I was told, was used to buy resources for small communities, and that's great. But what about the people left behind? Where is their support? I propose Orange City Council place a wooden bench in Cook Park in remembrance of those who have lost their lives and give to the community somewhere to sit and reflect and remember someone they very dear and special to them. The spot that I've chosen is provided, and she provided a photo, and it appears in today's Central Western Daily, and it is protected by hedges overlooking the water, surrounded by ducks, children's laughter and swings, and positioned perfectly under magnificent trees in Cook Park. The area where Tracy refers to, we went and had a look yesterday, and it's around between those two ponds. One of the things which I did check with Tracy, and she's done her due diligence, is that it's not an area where the bats roost. So anybody, if this is passed tonight, they certainly, we hope, will be safe. He also suggested that a plaque could read, "In memory of those we've lost, reflection chair." Quite simple, but powerful by the same token. The cost would be minimal, and with help of media, we could raise awareness that there is help and understanding for people grieving in a small way, and that could actually make a big impact on somebody. Another reason behind Tracy wanting to do this was because a few weeks ago she came across a young mum having a panic attack in her car with her kids. She said that she sat with her and held her hand until help arrived. And she has since kept in contact with that person, and I'm assuming that person had been affected.
Councillor Mileto, you're going to have to wind up in a minute. You've been going about 8 minutes, mate.
It's an important issue, Mr Mayor, but I'm certain...
I've just asked for an extension, which is moved. Seconder, all in favour. That's the way it's done. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And so she was able to help that person. Mrs in herself has been affected by... she's had the black dog at her door, which everybody would know would be some issues with regards to mental health. And she struggled with depression and anxiety. She's I'm best I've ever been, and she believes it's now her turn to give back to somebody else. So it's certainly happy. I'm glad that you're here tonight, Tracy. Mr Mayor, if I can just... no, I won't worry about what I've said. I mean, I think it speaks for itself. But I do... what I do want to say is that councillors, as I've highlighted earlier, this is an excellent opportunity to help create awareness with regards to mental health and the prevention of suicide in our community. I would encourage all councillors to support the notice of motion. Since Tracy and I have had this discussion, I've been contacted by another councillor who have got wind of what we're trying to do here, and they want to know what we're doing so they can try and implement the same sort of thing in their council. It's a notice of motion, and thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm going to support this 100%. Now, I'm lucky enough I haven't been in touch with that situation. But I do like to think that probably staff would come back with a report about where we could actually put it in Cook Park as part of the management plan, or the same with the botanical gardens. I would expect an appropriate recommendation would come back for that type of thing there. And I also support it as well, because you might remember, and some of the other councillors would remember too, there's a basketball court over in Kiram, a young chap over there that happened. Now this would take care of a lot of situations here that do occur that we all want to assist in those type of things there, and I think that it is, I think it deserves support.
I'll just clarify something, if that's okay, Mr Mayor. My understanding is that the chair isn't going to be in memory of one particular person. It's a reflection chair. Yeah. Anybody who has been lost or to suicide. Yeah. So it's not in particular memory of one person. So just make that clear.
No, that's quite clear, yeah. All right, look, I think we've had enough debate. All in favour? Go ahead, thank you. Unanimous. We move over to 5.1, and that's the options report, public space amenities. There's a report there. Right. Got it?
I'll move, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Taylor, seconder.
I'm happy to move that we.
We've got a seconder.
Yep.
Councillor Munro, thanks. Thanks,
I haven't moved anything yet because it's basically only that we note the report and that we determine. So, what I'll move is that the facility, a standalone facility, be placed in Robertson Park. Yeah, I'll
second that. I thought we had one, but I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor, the reason I do that is because this has been an ongoing buffering issue as far as the Orange community is concerned. 20 years ago, I think I moved this originally, and still trying. The reason I did it in the first place was way back then there was a lot of people affected on Anzac Day and so forth that were old people and that couldn't get across the road here. Over the years, I've seen people struggle to get across the road, this busy road here. Older people, people with disabilities, people with children. Park that we desperately need and a rest facility in. Go into any major area or anywhere, travel in New South Wales, anywhere in Australia, anywhere. And you'll find that the main park, which is down CBD, it might be argued it's not our main park, Cook Park is, but the main park in the CBD area has a toilet facility and a rest area where people can freshen up. So I think there's an expectation that it's there already. I think travellers come to us.
Sorry, what I may do is just move that recommendation first and then what your... Because this one just says, first of all, the council notes...
but it says the second part, Mr Mayor, it says determine.
Yeah, that's what
I've moved. Yeah.
No, that's what I want to do, is just move that first part and then you're moving... Preference, yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Standalone facility in Robertson.
All in favour of the council notes report, first of all? Thank you. And now we're doing part two.
Well, Mr Mayor, look, I'll get straight to the point. I mean, we need a standalone facility in there. Look, we've explored the options with the CWA. It's not going to happen as far as what I hear. My concern is, and there's a lot of people who debate the issue and say, look, we've put it over where it was years ago, near the cab rank. I'll tell you this. If we go for that option, we'll be still here this time next year because a DA will have to be, plans will have to be drawn up, a DA will have to be submitted, it'll have to go out for public comment, the whole rigmarole. Go for one of the plans of one of the facilities we already have in place, all the groundwork's been done, the design's been done, the DAs have been processed, everything has been done, all the boxes have been ticked. This money that we received from the state government was allocated for a toilet facility in Robertson Park. Now, I don't know why people are opposed to it. I don't know why people are so afraid of it. I don't know why people believe that putting a rest facility in the park is going to create antisocial problems and so forth. I've always believed you can't not put in facilities or take away facilities for the majority of the community when you've got 0.1% that might do the wrong thing. Got to do this for the bulk of the community. The community of Orange are watching us here tonight very closely on this decision. Any procrastination again on this send a very loud message to the community. I think we know what that message would be. Money's been allocated for Robertson Park facility. Greatly needed. Community believe that it's needed. There was I think there was a Facebook poll recently done, and there was about 500-600 people in support. So let's listen to them. Let's put facilities that are already there. The DAs have been done. Let's put them in place. Let be the council that finally gets this done, because over that 20 years, I've never heard one good argument of why we shouldn't do it. Not one.
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. Any other speakers? Nugent?
Just a question, Mr. Mayor. So we've got this supplementary documentation with location.
Yep.
So just to clarify what Councillor Taylor's moving, is it to put a toilets or an amenities facility in that location indicated on the map on this
Mr.
photograph?
Maunder, I'll just get Mr. Maunder to explain his map.
Yeah, the resolution is?
In Councillor Taylor.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it was an alternative location. So we've been around the park.
So to speak.
It was an alternative location that we hadn't previously considered. It was the only real location available on the northern side of the park. Would involve the removal of the deodar, although condition isn't excellent, but it's certainly healthy. So it was just an option before council. I suppose part of the challenge with this is not only its location but its size. The last DA before council was the 5 cubicle plus urinal option, which is a large building, 3 urinal, but as a matter for council to. So it was just it was simply an indication of another location that it might go in, given the previous discussions around conflict with businesses on McNamara Lane, impact on events in the park. There was some objections from Vinrons Association, some suggestions to put it in place. However, that simply puts it in front of their other businesses. And we'd previously ruled out Summer Street. So that's simply really the only place left. That's the purpose.
So that's
of
what that is, yeah.
I think Councillor Taylor also said we have a DA, but we don't have a DA for that location. Is that right?
That's
correct. In terms of process, we'd need to go through a DA process still.
What the resolution is, so we know whether someone's speaking for or against or what.
We're exploring that now.
Yeah. I'll run the meeting, Councillor Duffy. I will run the meeting. I'll tell you what, you're getting very, very close.
Mr.
You're getting
Chairman,
close,
I can ask a
mate.
question?
You are getting very close.
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Taylor.
My motion was a standalone facility in Robson Park, so I'm leaving that to council to determine.
That's what I
and
interpreted
all I've appealed for is councillors to consider one that has already gone through the DA process, so we're not going to be held up.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Now, is that clear to you, Councillor Newton?
My understanding is that it required the DA to be, given we don't have a current DA on foot, is.
So all we're approving at the moment is a amenity in the park somewhere, not a specific location. Can I ask a follow-up question then? In relation to the other options, we've got Perry Oval and Glenroy Oval. In terms of level of need, I would see them as being a higher level of need. There is
you're speaking against.
Okay, yeah, I'm speaking against it. There's no publicly available amenities within the vicinity of Glenroy Oval or Perry Oval. Perry Oval is highly used after school hours for training all year round. Glenroy Oval is lightly used, although I was down there on Friday afternoon and there was quite a number of people in the park. And with current youth centre that's operating out there, the football posts that are being put in, more sporting facilities, additional lighting going into Glenroy Oval, I'd like to think that there'll be increased use of that area. So in terms of need, to me, they're a much greater need. And there are also facilities that could be used, could be built far more cheaply than what we're potentially looking at here. So I still see that Perry Oval, Glenroy Oval and John Lomax Skate Park is a greater area of need. Have the opportunity, we could spend this money, even though it was initially allocated for Robertson Park, we could spend the money on those facilities and those. And hence, I would prefer to see that as
Councillor Munro.
Mr. Mayor, public, look, what can we do right now? I think the public have had enough of us in regards to the toilet in Robinson Park. I think this is a fairly good location. I agree more to the location. If we're going to pick a location, it's not going to be at the CWA, this is a good option. As he said, the tree hasn't got, well, it's not very healthy. It's probably healthy, I don't know. Anyway, I wouldn't mind helping you chop it down if you want a hand. We can get this go,
I don't think that'd be a good option.
All right. Now, look, how about we just make a decision? Now, we've had the one over in McNamara Lane. That was a good outcome as far as the design. Possible, just a question, is it possible to plonk that there or not?
I'm not sure which design you made. The 5 cubic, the bigger one, the last design?
Yeah.
It would probably, given its size, I'd have to come back to you. It's a much bigger building. It'd likely impact on the Sir Neville Howe's memorial as well, which we might have to relocate. So,
okay.
I couldn't.
Well, I'd like to call on councillors to agree on, if they could agree, to have a look at that. I'll put my hand up right now. I'd love to see that there, if you can put it there. Subject to that going there, I'd like to vote on it. I think it'd be a fantastic opportunity if you can even scale it down a little bit on the DA. Put an amendment to the DA to scale that down. Maybe take a cubicle out of the men's or something. Whatever. Make a decision tonight. I think the public would applaud us if we made a bloody well decision.
Hey, what's your language?
Excuse the French. But no, it gets very frustrating. And
part of the frustration has been all of us have had alternate views, including yourself, on unisex toilets.
Yeah, well, how about we have another look at that? This done, because please, councillors, let's all agree on it for once. Let's do something for that's going to be looked at as little leadership in this council. Can we please put this in?
Can I just, Councillor Taylor, can I ask you a question? Would you be happy with that site?
Mr. Mayor,
I think
I've indicated I'd be happy with any site in Robson Park.
In your part that we go for that site. That'll make it easy, and we've made a decision.
If council can reach a consensus on that, I'd be more than happy.
Will you put it in? I'll second it. You put it in?
Move it.
Second it.
Okay. Could we maybe
Councillor McRae was next.
read it out?
Sorry, my concern or my question is how can we as councillors agree to a plan that we actually don't know what it is? My other question is as to whether, considering that projects need to be completed or near completion by 31 December 2019, and if we're going to this, I think it'll be the 6th location or the 6th plan, will we be able to deliver a design, get it through council meetings appropriately, on exhibition, address any public comment and actually have it completed or near completion by 31 December?
I'll answer the last part. It wasn't completed by the 31st of December, but the DA's approving their start of work. They're not going to take the money off, so they're going to let us go, and I'll guarantee you that. So that takes that
Okay,
part
so
of it.
that's related to the advice from the New South Wales State Government from the other week. My other question is, if we're so committed that we want the certainty, why do we not actually go with one of the plans that we already have? We've got the design and done the public exhibition.
Because I think some people have indicated this looks like a very, very good option, where it could be in brick that fits in with that CWA hall and in a good position, accessible, and fits in with the heritage of the park. I think this is a win-win.
Mr Mayor, in that case, I'll now speak against the motion. I'm not prepared to support a maybe imaginary building that I don't know what it's going to look like or what the heritage will be.
The site. The motion is for the site. Not we're talking about an imaginary. This is for the site.
Chairman. Sorry, Mr. General Manager, did you want to speak?
No.
Right. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think I'm speaking in support of the opportunity to look at that site, to have a DA come back to council for us to facilitate a toilet in that park.
It's a good point.
I think it comes down to credibility now, credibility discussion. Community are looking to us to make a decision, put a toilet in that park. And whilst it's not the motion at the moment, I agree with Councillor Nugent. Any of our parks in the city that are highly used should have public facilities. They should have public facilities in them. And it's up to us to determine which of those parks. We can't put toilets in every park. Certainly the ones that are publicly used for sporting events and farmers markets events and all those sorts of things, we should public toilets. And certainly we should have a public toilet in Robertson. I would be overjoyed if we get to that point and agree that this is what we're going to do.
Is there any speakers against it?
Yep.
Put the motion, sir.
Can we have the motion, Mr Mayor? Have the motion.
May I be so bold, Councillor Taylor, to perhaps reword the motion or summarise where we're up to? It might be that staff commence the process of installing an appropriately sized toilet facility at the northern end of Robertson Park. That allows us to
happy,
design
Mr. Acting General Manager, anything that'll move this process on to
And
an outcome.
I'll second that.
To clarify,
We're quite familiar. They're familiar with it. They know what we're talking about.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm going a little bit along the lines of Councillor McRae. I want to know what the time frame is for design plans, exhibition and all those, and when it's going to come back in for us to vote again, and we'll probably change our mind again. We've got a site, we've got everything planned. The only reason why I changed my mind from McNamara Street, because we did not have a heritage report on it. We had heritage comments, but we didn't have a heritage report. We should have learnt that lesson from 62 Bing Street. But that's, again, we've gone right back to versus square one, except tonight we're just saying it's in Robertson Park. That's all we're saying.
We're saying in Robertson Park and a
Is it going to
site.
be 6 months' time or 12 months' time or whatever the case may be before the first sod's kern?
Can I just clarify one thing? We're saying in Robertson Park at that site. That's what we're saying. Yeah. Oh, well, that's the motion. That's what the
Let's
motion
approve
is
the
on.
north end.
I'm saying that's what the motion is at the moment. It's up to you what way you want to vote. Councillor Mileta.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And
So you're speaking for or against?
I'm speaking for it, much to the surprise of Councillor Taylor, I'm imagining. But look, I was always in support of a toilet in Robinson Park, but it was depending on where it was going to go, which was my major concern. I think the location which has been suggested by council is an excellent location. That should tick all the boxes. I think what we're voting on here tonight is just the location, and some of the other issues which council have spoken about regards to heritage and all that type of thing, they can be addressed in due course. That's what the motion is saying. Yes, we'll do those type of inquiries, make those things happen. So it's going to come back. I mean, at the end of the day, we're going to decide on the design anyway, and there's going to be a heritage assessment done. But I'm fully supportive of that location. We're at the northern end of Robinson Park.
Councillor Taylor.
Just briefly, Mr Mayor, as a lot of you would be aware, I supported the motion that it be in McNamara Street, Midway, etc., but that was lost on the night. So I certainly support this option, and I'd just like to move that Councillor Duffy but not be in attendance at that meeting. So we all desperately want it to go through. We do not want to be sidelined on any other issue other than get this toilet cubicle, whether it's 3 or 5, built in Robertson Park. Let's not get distracted.
Order, Mr.
I'm going to try
Point
the
of
floor.
order. I don't make the decision. The council makes the decision.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I'm going to try the ward here. All in favour, show of hands. Against, yes. 2 against. Now, Maunder would like to say something.
Through you, Mr Chair.
Chairman. Sorry, just ask Mr Maunder to say something, then you're next.
Through you, Mr Chair. I did just want to say one thing and request something else of council. So in the meeting with the CWA that the Mayor and I attended last week, the CWA were supportive of council proceeding with the facility in Robinson Park to look at integrating with the CWA hall, so in a design sympathetic to the park, so same brick, etc. So they were comfortable with that, just to close that out. The question I have of council is that we have 3 designs a facility in Robinson Park, and they simply are a 3 cubicle facility.
As I don't think we really have to go there yet. I think the most important thing is for us with this, and we've said the title, and I think the most important thing is to do some measurements, east, south, north, west, to see what actually fits there.
That was,
Okay.
yeah.
They told us to read the motion out again, which included that staff commence the process of installing an appropriately sized toilet. So as part of our process, I guess staff are going to make that decision. Site constraint.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, my question wasn't answered about the timeframe.
So if we go with an existing
The
design,
acting general manager was going to answer.
I think the existing, we'll pick one of the existing designs.
Correct.
Yeah, it'll be brief.
So that, and then we can lodge that with council, and we can commence the DA process.
The
So
bricks.
3 months, but
We
the
do.
process.
How long are we looking for?
Through Mr. Chair, can I answer the question of time as best I can? Pick a design we've been to already. I would think we'll spend July working on that design, preparing a DA. I don't propose we come back to you. I think we prepare a DA, lodge it and assess it. And then what is brought back to you is a fait accompli. Well, no, it is a DA for your approval or refusal. So I would think we would get that DA back to you in September. Simultaneously, given the need to chase
Question,
this
Councillor
grant,
McRae.
is to prepare a tender for construction parallel in the hope that you would approve that facility.
Mr. McRae and then Councillor.
My concern or question is in relation to
No
the
concerns,
particular
question.
design. Question in design is that each of these designs also received feedback from our local police regarding safety, and that was also in relation to screening of nearby plans, lights, etc. So would it not be necessary to redesign because it'll be a different orientation, different location with different lighting
I
considerations?
am quite sure our planning staff will be in discussions with the police and the appropriate people, that because it is a public park, you know all the boundaries around that. I'm quite sure they know what their jobs are.
I can promise you, Mr. Chair, we will contact the police. Earliest
All right.
process.
We've had it all in favour, against. Thank you. Now move on to, thank you councillors for that. It's 5.2. Upcoming conference, Inland Rail Conference. Is that right?
Yeah, page 155.
Page 155.
Move the recommendation, Mr Mayor. But I haven't got any councillors.
Oh.
Councillor McRae, of course. Councillor McRae's on the committee, so I should nominate her if she accepts.
Look, correction, at the last meeting, Councillor Whitten, I stepped down from the Orange Rail Action Group as the council representative, in case you don't recall.
So representative now.
Yes. And to me, this is an economic development issue. And as the chair of the Economic Development Committee, I'd like to nominate Councillor Miletto.
I'll second that nomination. Having attended last year, it's much more to do with economic development rather than it is the Orange Rail Action Group and passenger rail.
Just, if I could just say, look, I just question this. What value is this to Orange City Council going to a conference in Toowoomba, an inland rail conference?
Coming through parks.
This is a national conference. I just question the costing and of what value add is it to this council. I'm just asking the question. It's up to you. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I guess the question which I would have to council, is that information available, or can we have access to the information which should be discussed at that meeting in any event?
You can ask Kath if there's something that comes. Oh, sorry, post the event.
Yes.
What usually happens at those, we can request and get on thumb drive or whatever, and the proceedings and any of the speakers. Post to it if there's any papers being presented, we can get hold of those, and then post. Most conferences now, they put out, a hard copy and a thing on thumb drive of the.
That being the case, and with regards to the financial implications to council and the tyranny of distance which would be required to attend, I probably don't believe that's a responsible use of council or ratepayers' money for me to attend it. So I think that I'd be happy as chair of the Economic Development Committee just to receive that correspondence electronically or by paper.
Thanks, Councillor Ledo. And look, might just ask Mr Redmond, there's one coming up at Forbes. It would be more appropriate to New South Wales and where. Can you just...
There is Mr. Mayor, there's a one-day workshop in
can all go to.
Friday week talking about the in-round Ireland, particularly around
I'll get that date out to everyone. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I want to just reiterate the fact that we definitely need to be at Forbes because each rail carriage takes 1.5 B doubles off our main roads. I think we need to be there.
We'll circulate those dates. Yeah. Okay, we'll move. Well, the recommendation is the council has determined that it isn't appropriate for a councillor to attend.
I'll change my motion to be noted, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, to be noted. Thanks, Councillor Whitten. Who was the seconder? You're all in favour, aye, against, thanks. 5.3 is event sponsorship program.
Recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Nugent. Second, Councillor Turner. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, thank you. 5.4 is the grey-headed flying fox.
Amendment.
No, who was the seconder there? You moved it.
I did.
Second, Councillor Munro. Councillor Ledo.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just have a question, and I agree with the recommendation, but I'm just wondering, is signage required during certain periods of the year warning visitors to the park when bats may be roosting rather than get inundated with faeces?
We can certainly, through you, Mr Chair, we can certainly put signs up.
Just warning signs letting people know that they're just to keep an eye on the bats so that they don't get surprised if they're sitting on a seat and then a bat decides to roost on it. It's an unpleasant experience. So I think prevention is important under these circumstances.
If I may, I'll just refer you back. It was quite interesting for some of the media during the last week or so about the foxes. Media who were present and others, that report has been referred to, I don't know on how many occasions. It's on the website and you can get copies of it, and it was produced in this chamber for all councillors again earlier in this year, which was done by Professor David Goldney back in 2010. There has been a little bit of incorrect information given that the flying foxes appeared here prior to 2010. And they have been here every year since. Main colonies, originally one of the colonies was out on Derry Creek Road where it goes off the highway, then in Ploughman's Lane, then in Cook Park. I have video all those years and photographs if anyone wants to know, and numbers, fairly accurate numbers that were done of flying fox, and it was done for New South Wales farmers. It was in relation to damage being done to fruit. Part of Council Turner used to in government, then it was part of the processes we had to go through New South Wales farmers to get substantial grant for netting for orchards. Now, that information is available and accurate counts, not hearsay and everyone's guesstimates around the place, and they are available.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not happy with the recommendation because I think we should be doing something. High frequency noise or lights in the park like we saw in Canberra and those type of things down there to certain trees to just see if it'll work. I know you mentioned the bats in Ploughman's Lane. They were moved. They were moved by a guy cracking a stopwick and they moved on to somewhere else. I don't particularly care where they go. We are as councillors responsible for that park, and the people of Orange are asking us to move them along. Basically, or can we can finish up like Singleton where we start to lose the trees over a long period of time. I just think maybe the staff should come back and look at that lighting situation or high frequency noise. But we want to know when they turn up and how to operate those type of things there. Maybe it's something we got a little bit of time up our sleeve. They're not here at the moment. Maybe a report could come back with along those lines.
I'd like to move a third point to this recommendation, and that is that Council continue to monitor, research and monitor flying fox abatement program.
Words right out of my mouth.
You know how to spell it?
I wasn't a speller. I can go to iPad. Yeah, I'm happy.
I mean, that's all. Just continue to
I'll
look.
second that, Mr.
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. Councillor McRae.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, my concern's that if we use any means necessary or test out a whole lot, are we heading down the path of the Royal Botanic Gardens, Sydney, which has spent more than $1 million and ongoing to try and shift a flying fox population of 3,000. My concerns are how much are we willing to spend or what may have little impact. I also would suggest that we continue to work with local government New South Wales. When visiting Tamworth in April, I noted they had a number of educational and warning signs along their river where they have a significant flying fox camp. Now, also noted, and I took some photos of these signs, that it's a project supported by LG New South Wales with funding from them to actually engage in some education of the community about the flying foxes and, in fact, potential tourism impacts of people coming to look at them, rather than spending money trying to move them, which is both unsuccessful, costly, and in some cases may actually be illegal. So I would have caution with the suggestion that we try to spend how much would we be spending on abatement?
Now, I'll answer the question. I'm looking to continue to monitor and abate. In fact, if we have something happen in that park, you're going to have to make a decision then. Do you clear the park and no one's allowed in the park? Or we have to look at moving. Now, I'm not saying to move, and I said on the radio the other day, and I mean this quite seriously, I have the perfect habitat, which is 3 kilometres away, where I have a whole host of Australian native trees, yellow box, and you would know it very, very familiar. That's their natural habitat. Their natural habitat, not plain trees, Atnus hybrid, if you like. That isn't their natural habitat. And their natural habitat isn't in the middle of Cook Park, which is a community park. I know that they're a native animal and I know a lot about flying foxes. I can actually tell you that isn't their natural habitat. But surrounding, outside and on the edges, just on the edges of Orange, there is a lot of natural habitat in a number of Gosling Creek Park, Spring Creek Park, going out towards Mount Canobolas, going around on the edges. That's their natural habitat. Actually isn't. Now, at this stage, no, I think it took... you'd know, you're in the area of medicine. It took over 100 odd years to come up with penicillin, quite a few other things. And there was a young bloke once who went to a queen and asked for some money to go out and prove the world wasn't flat. And he did prove the world wasn't flat, and everyone said he was stupid. Well, research means and monitor, look at, there could be ways that stops the bats actually when they do come in roosting there. They go to a place that's more appropriate and actually roost. And that's what actually happened with the ones at Dairy Creek Road. They moved from Dairy Creek Road, right in front of Brian Turner's place there, his house, and on that section there. They moved from that area because some stuff was put over a very, very shallow pond there, and it was believed because of flying and how they drank, they moved from there. So who knows? Who knows what the solution? I don't believe in some of the things they tried in the Botanic Gardens. Quite plain to see that some of those things weren't going to work. And I was asked the question today, and I don't know how they come with this, shooting nets up in the air and shooting them over the top of the trees. No, I'm talking about things like that. But when you notice when they do start coming into areas, usually they send out some scouts first of all. Their numbers build up for a couple of days just with scouts, and that's when the rest of them come in, and it's back and tell the rest. And that's what they do when they go out feeding. Now, if you can stop when they come in scouting, where they perhaps look at a different area, it may work. I don't know. I'm not saying it does work, but it is worth continuing to research and monitor and see what does happen. And there's
a lot of
nothing
people
like that, and I'm
think
not
the
talking
Earth's
about a
still
great
flat,
expense.
Mr. Mayor.
Sorry?
A lot of people think the Earth's still flat.
So, Taylor.
Mr. Mayor, look, I fully agree, and I second that. We need to monitor. We don't know. But I'm surprised. Yesterday, actually, I went and I spoke in detail with the acting general manager about the problem. He's got the answer.
Ag pipes.
Yeah, he's got them hanging on his office wall, and anyone who's heard him, obviously, it's cruel, I know, to the bats. but they won't come back. I can assure you they won't come back.
Yeah, look, if I can just make one other comment too, Councillor McRae brought up a very good point. That local government New South Wales has received money from a federal or a state grant. They have a position at the moment, a 12 months position for a flying fox officer, or I'm not exactly call what it's called. Part of this would be inviting that person to come up and put on a forum here for councillors and any of the community people that want to be part of that. The DPI has a specialist person also in flying foxes, but it is quite interesting the level of naivety about flying foxes. As an orchardist, I can get permission to shoot them. And I don't want anyone doing that.
Put some trees in there. Apple trees look good in there.
In favour?
All right, can we have the
I had that third one, it's just to continue to monitor possible abatement, which may mean that there's nothing out there not worth looking at, which means nothing will be spent. So it's just a point three.
Council, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I'll put that. All in favour? Against? Thank you. Now, with the Flying Fox plan, the next council meeting, if you could all have a good read of it, and I'll have a test on it.
Have the acting general manager play the bagpipes?
Fire him out all summer. Have him under that tree with the bagpipes.
You should do it at the opening of council.
General Manager will advise the Council if any written submissions have been received relating to any item advertised for consideration by a closed meeting of Orange City Council.
Not the case.
I extend an invitation to any member of the public present at the meeting to make a representation to Council as to whether the meeting should be closed for a particular item. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 and the Local Government General Regulation 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following business of a kind is referred to in Section 10A(2) of the Act and should be dealt with in a confidential session of the Council meeting closed to the press and public. The items to be considered in closed are tenders for ready mix concrete. The reason for the confidentiality is this item is classified confidential under the provisions of Section 10A(2)(c), information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the Council is conducting or proposes to conduct business. I ask the members of the public, they have to leave.